Hello, everyone.
I am good. Thank you for coming in. Well, we're slowly warming up to the session today. The others have not yet joined in. So, since you're the first one in, we'll get that special personal one-on-one time with you. You have any, how's everything progressing? I remember last time that we had this conversation like that in this space. You mentioned that you were just now going into the use of AI a little bit more than before. You were feeling safer with that. How's that going now?
Yes, I am improving a bit, but I think I must have a personal meeting with you. I must set up that so as I can just um, start from a point so as I can streamline my things because I go on with it and then I get to a space I find that there's stuff that is missing that I maybe didn't get, so I cannot then be able to progress going further. So maybe having that special meeting at some stage and then I can start from a stage and then build up correctly.
Absolutely. At any point in time, you
Baby
can
steps.
take advantage of the assessment. And you're doing great because, in a sense, you are self-assessing yourself at this point. And that is important for setting the goals that you have to meet next. Right? So that is great. And one thing, well, two things. You're most likely going to love what we are going to be discussing today because um, it's part of that interaction that you're now actually manifesting, right? The idea of being in a journey with a community and understanding, okay, well, at which point I have to engage to get a little bit more of that community, and also what are the steps there. I think that through the year, uh, focusing on building the content, on creating the course, I ended up doing a lot of data dump on you guys. I would say it that way because I would give you as much as I was trying to dilute it, or as much as we're always going to try to dilute it when delivering it. There's so much information that we are peeling through each hours and bringing them back together once you're offline uh, is not that simple. Even if I dare say that most of the documents that are out there are step-by-step playbook process that we've implemented to get to this point of the year, right? Where we're discussing this strategy around CRM, retention, client interaction, and such. And as much as we know the information, there's a difference between knowing it and applying it. Coming back to that picture about the light and the book, right? At one point, as you said, you know what? I got to go back to the beginning, open that book, look at that first page, and understand that process. And page after page, going to that same mechanic, forge the understanding that I need to spearhead my adventure in this online world, right? And it's your steps, right? What we aim to do here, and that is also at the core of the promise that we make, right? In this idea of relationship and growth, this journey together. We're talking about lifetime process, right? And it's your pace. Once you get comfortable with that, as you said, and as you manifested, once you get comfortable in the space of evaluating yourself and understanding, okay, well, this is what I need for my next step in this space, then your learning curve starts accelerating, right? It comes back to that voice that um, uh, um, Jackie said last time, spoke to him like, hey, you're better than this, or hey, well, you're being a little dense. Don't be afraid, embrace what's happening, right? These little voices, uh that's also brings us back to that idea of the signal through the noise, right? That little voice is that signal. And definitely when you're in a community, it finds an echo with other voices and is amplified. So you want to take advantage of that. And this is also, I wanted to start this meeting away, but I didn't want it to make it super dramatic or, but I received a message from Rita, and I won't go into the details of the message, uh, but it was um, testimonial or reach out, and it was a very pleasant message, very encouraging, and it also brought to light some of the obligation that I have towards you, my peers, you who are coming in here and believe in the process and follow through, right? Because I was looking back, and it's about the year is about to end, and we're going into 2026, and we'll be blazing in all the knowledge that we have accumulated and adding more. And after that, it will be 2027 and 2028 because it's a growth and a lifetime relationship that we have pledged ourselves and bound ourselves to, right? Each time we get into this space about building and developing people to a leader scale or developing ourselves to the leader scales, we're talking about life journeys, right? And since I regularly take the stage here, and I believe strongly in what I preach and practice, I want to make sure that you guys are impacted properly, right? And just giving you that information like that, as I said, these massive information share don't necessarily give you the root of what you need to start, right? I've built an ecosystem so far here, and that even translated in a conversation. And again, those who do not make it to the Monday are missing out on a lot because storytelling is something that happens across all the action that we will be taking in marketing, and it's essential. And it had me reevaluate the year from the beginning and what we shared, and even the mind frame and the framework that we were approaching this. I'm going to dive into the tool here, but definitely, I heard what you said, Rita. I heard what you said right there today, Johnny, and I need to step up a little bit in the way we interact, right? We are a community and we should build these channels of follow-up so that we make sure that we grow together. And that is a promise that we made to each other. So we'll dive in here just to put things in perspective. Everything, I think I might have been mumbling a little bit in the emotion, but I think everything that I'm trying to say will come through to the teachings or to the case study that we'll go over today. Go ahead, Rita.
Hey, everybody. I just wanted to um, say that when we watch, well, we stalk you guys, not because it's not because it's like, oh, what do they have out there now? What have you done? Oh, I never thought about that. I liked the fact that they used that. That's number one for me. Second would be being able to recognize. I recognize stories like you would not believe. When I hear a pitch coming, anybody that is doing the story, Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, they just flow right into that pitch, and you recognize it. You're like, oh, that's what so and so said. So as things, when you recognize you can't go back because now you see it. But before, when you're like, what are you talking about? What's my story? Is it this one? Is it that one? You can have a bunch of stories, but you know when you got it, when you're able to see, oh, he's trying to pitch me now. I know that line. So it's very powerful, and we're the sponges. We're absorbing.
That
Back
that
to you.
is actually that. Thank you for again for your share because this is actually how you learn, right? When I started learning, or yeah, when I started learning, because at first, when you're at school, you're taught, right? And you are given information that you have to absorb. But I call when I started learning, when you yourself start going to the library because you heard about this thing and you want to open this book and track down that piece of knowledge and better understand it and how it applies to what you're doing, right? This is when you start learning. It's not being educated in the education system. It's really opening your mind to the real reality around you, the new perspective and perception, how your brain works, right? And that's important because, as you said, once you gain awareness of the ABCs of the inner work of the the way things are done, you can't unsee it, right? I remember, for example, when I was in fashion school, after the first week, one of my classmates came to me and were like, "Are you now sizing everybody and trying to gauge where they're at and how they dress and how they feel?" Because we were being taught on how to recognize style, how it correlates to mood, and how, right? Once you see this, you can't stop, right? Same thing when you are taught the different uh, personality in customer service, right? Once you get to experience this, it doesn't stop. It follows you when you're outside. Whenever you do something and you embrace it fully as a profession, it doesn't leave you when you leave your lab or the place of work. It keeps on following you, right? And that's so important, absorbing it, because this is when that light comes on, right? Often enough, um, and this is why repetition is father of learning, right? Often enough, it takes a few turns around the mill to see, oh, well, these are the little things that I didn't notice the first time around that really put everything together in my mind, right? This is the thing. And that is also part of discipline, right? Seeing it, acting on it as well. That's the most important part, acting on these things, because when the light comes on, if you don't maintain it for the first part, it could fade away. And that's the truth as well, right? Because you can see something, realize, oh yeah, but if you don't go back and practice it, other lights start turning on. They dim this one, create shadow. That shining object syndrome kicks in sometimes, and boom, right? You forget that very piece of valuable knowledge that you needed. The root locus to the operation, if I use that term properly. Okay, so the last time, and still we are in this space of retention strategy and CRM. Why? Because simply brings everything that we have discussed so far together, right? Even in the aspect of onboarding a client. Uh, we established this as being the architecture of any type of prospect interaction or onboarding into an ecosystem or any type of immersive environment, right? When you meet the prospect, you need to onboard them, whatever that entails, closing, having them buy in or whatnot. Once they're in that agreement with you, you need to educate them. And that has its different cycles depending on what product or what goal or what type of offer they are being onboarded in, right? If this is to be, not if, since this is to be a long-term relationship, right? A long-term interaction, as we celebrate our family members' achievement and success, we are also called to celebrate the success of the members of our community. Same thing, right? Through that, we seek to empower those so that the others that haven't achieved in the community have goals, aspiration, know which mentors to go to within the community to get these little pieces of information or practice these things that they overlooked that allow them, those leaders, to make it to the next level, right? It's normal that in a group, some will lose passion, some will catch on fatigue, frustration, and whatnot. And this is when there has to be that reactivation process. And then we go back to the flow, right? We establish that. And around this, what we were looking at are the different phases at which we are looking to automate to make this work easier for us. Let me just zoom back a little bit there to make this work easier for us. But making this work easier for us doesn't mean that we are forgetting all the ABCs that we went through. This is when everything that we have established before is now being applied, right? Very important. Last time we discussed, sorry, there's something that is buzzing around me there. It's Taquito. So last time we discussed in accord to these steps, this chart, this ideal prospect flow that we just covered, the different stage at which we should be or we will be considering automation and how much of it requires our interaction, right? And we had automation 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're at 5. Today, we're going to be covering the other part of the conversation, which is equally important. All these documents are available in the team. I recommend taking the time to take them in, right? Because these process won't change, and proof in the doing, all these documents, all the foundational blocks used to create and flesh out the environment that you're now seeing being built before you together, right? So proof in the saying, at any rate, applying this at least gets you in the pocket of being able to do what we're doing here as leaders of this community, right? And this is a commitment, right? Supplied. So we had discussed this and all these documents of there. There's the most important part that we're going to be covering here is how we handle the interaction, right? Because whatever you have chosen to automate in terms of onboarding sequence, of educational process, of recognition system or empowerment, once you have established those, these will kick in at one point another, not necessarily always in order, right? For example, when you are in the education pocket and going through the different levels, well, that does require some recognition and empowerment, right? In the higher tiers of algorithmic thinking or programming, people start looking at nodes, I believe, connection nodes. So this node does all this work and it connects to this, but it can also interact with this other node. And these nodes are technically programs or application or AIs in our case, or processes of automation, right? Same thing, I would say, considering this as hubs. I have my onboarding hub with all the automation process there. I have my educational hub with all the skill levels and process mapped out, right? The story of all the leaders that came before manifested in each steps of the way so people can follow, right? So your storytelling applies, right? And that storytelling in accord to the process of the path laid before each leader is meant to also echo, reinforce your mission statement, your core brand vision, right? So everything that we've discussed so far is in this pocket. Everything, branding, right? Interaction, onboarding, email sequence, right? Lead capture, micro um, agreements. All this comes into play. Feedback. So full implementation of this relationship. We've gone a little bit beyond the realm of just marketing and building the image. Now we're really behind what supports this image, what we have decided to become basically the value that we add to our offer, right? So very important. And in the last part of the conversation here, there was the idea of timing, right? After the automation, and this is what we're going to be discussing here, touch points, rhythm, and how your process is scalable. Okay, this is so important in a sense that just before we were this yesterday in the conversation, at one point, Doria had a share, and it was about the rhythm of the conversation. And there's so much at that point, I wanted to say, but more so in the conversation of the rhythm of our overall interaction. Right? When we say CRM, that's in the end what we're trying to build, the rhythm around how we can interact with each one of these people. And that interaction is based on all the data that we basically, I use the word, but we essentially gathered before. Goals, ambition, motivation, skill levels, achievements, right? All these little facts that we were covering right at the beginning of these documents. None of the information is lost, right? We require this data. Maybe not at the moment of acquisition, all of it. Maybe not at the moment of conversion, but at the end stage of this process, which is essential to close the loop for us, the retention, everything comes into play. Right? This is where, again, we're far away from the KISS principle. We're in the hard embrace. Every question that we left unanswered is here. Every resource that we want to point to is here. All that is that ecosystem that we offer as value. Whether you are building your own brand, whether you're endorsing a brand, whether you are representing, ambassadoring a brand, in the end, all these titles require this ecosystem approach. Hence, again, my constant affirmation that the stronger your retention process, the stronger your acquisition. That brings me also into the conversation of today. I actually wanted to start with some frames for that reframing, and all the frames that I picked made sense, but they didn't hold together without the story around it, right? And this is, I think, another application of what we discussed yesterday. Whatever you have at your disposal, right? Once you understand the conversation that you want to lay out, can be turned into a powerful tool, right? And this one is, I wanted us to think about something that we do naturally, but that we forget to do when we're considering a conversation, an interaction, right? And I picked three frames to kind of illustrate that. Hope that it will hit. You'll let me know if it makes sense. But we are all very comfortable with the mirror, right? To a certain degree, we go to the mirror and make faces to understand what we look like when we feel a certain way, right? We have all done this, unless I'm the only guy who does that. But I think okay, if I smile like this, okay, my serious look, especially before interviews, right? You want to practice your faces. And we get very comfortable at reading faces, our faces, because we understand the emotion that they represent, right? In our space, when we're talking about interaction and engagement and balancing the interaction, how come we forget to start reading these faces, understanding the emotions that they are hiding or that they are suggesting, even when the words are not there? because this is where the conversation is happening for us as well, right? And this is valid, yes, in spaces like ours where we're face to face, either on camera or physically or whatever. But it's also something that is manifested through exchanges, right? Because, for example, if I DM you and you respond right away, there's an energy that comes across there. Interested, excited, available, all that comes into mind. If I DM you, you're active, but you don't respond right away, there's an emotion, there's a read that comes there, right? And we want to be aware of that. This is how we get to really appreciate when, for example, we can push the button on that, would you like to try it? Or would you like to know more? Right? This is where we get right away the sense of, okay, this is going to be an apple, or an orange, or coconut, right? This is how this energy, I feel, manifests. It's fact, right? When we're posting, we expect these reactions. The longer they take, the lower our heart sinks. Oh my God, nobody's seeing it. Nobody's why, right? We are waiting. These are the facial expression that we're looking for, right? And I wanted the last frame, I wanted to bring us back to this moment, right? When we first, or when you see a kid, a baby, discovering a mirror for the first uh, time, they're very curious about what they're seeing, not understanding that it's them, right? They're making faces and seeing faces, but not understanding that it's their themselves, right? They're actually really trying to interact. And if they scare themselves sometimes, right? They make mean faces and, oh, mean face, ah, right? This is the same state that we want to go back into when we are engaging with our prospects, when we are engaging in any conversation, right? Especially in our space where it's not just about expressing how we feel and waiting for the response of our friend, it's explaining or manifesting intentions to create motion. And these are the gauges. Maybe I'm going too hard, the face, or maybe they don't understand, or silence, right? When do I go into the next step? Right? Remember that. And this is how I think you should read these conversations when they're happening in the DMs or when they're happening face to face. Remember that the person is sending you these messages without necessarily telling you those things in the words, right? Somebody can be asking a question, and by the way they're asking their question, you can think, you can see in their face because of these visual cues that they're actually thinking about asking another problem, but it's all mixed up in the way they're saying it. And if you can read these, you can actually answer the question that they're not asking, right? So a lot of that happens in that magic space once you embrace it. And it calls upon recognizing and accepting yourself, right? Go ahead, Robert.
So I had to chime in and give you some flowers, as you like to put it. I'm sitting back here listening to what you're saying, and it's like so true. And the other thing that I love is that you have some amazing qualities about you, Virgil. You remind me of Brad as far as picking up the content that I throw down and assimilating it and then putting it into, your own context or how it works. We did so much mirror work when we were doing direct marketing. And it's important that you do it. I heard you say we all look at the mirror, make funny faces. Some of us do, but not on a consistent basis. And what I mean by that is they don't, you might walk by the mirror and make a funny face or whatever, but are you actually sitting in the mirror and having your conversation or your script so that you see what you look like to that other person? There are things that you mentioned in there that came to my mind. One of them is scrunchy face, is what we used to call it. Scrunchy face, right? There's these different body language techniques that you can use, especially when you're in direct marketing, face to face, that just like you said, if you learn and understand how to read those emotions, read the face, read the body language, you'll be able to pick up on what they're saying because that's the biggest form of communication is your nonverbal communication that you don't realize,
Mm.
right? So when you pick up on nonverbal communication, you can kind of tell, like, think about it for a moment. Realistically, you guys know how to do it. You just don't practice it all the time. You know, if you have a friend of yours that isn't feeling well, right? You can read their body language, right? It's the same type of thing, only we just don't hone into those emotions or pay close attention or even have the awareness to do that. So, I highly, highly recommend whatever it is that you're doing, whatever you're selling, sit in the mirror one day and sit there and talk to yourself. It might sound funny, seem funny, but it's important for you to look and see what your face looks like. Are you sitting confidently? How are you, what's your position like? Are you confident? Um, I said all that because I'm floored. I love the stuff that we're learning here together. I love that you're picking up what I'm throwing down. I have, just to tell you a quick side story, I have a 14-year-old kid that he's come by. I posted about it before. He's looking for work in the neighborhood, keep himself out of trouble. I went and because he knocked on my door the other day, I went and I created a script for him. He should be coming by today. And my whole intention and why I'm telling you this is I'm going to teach him when he gets here some of these things that I'm talking to you guys about how to stand in the door, how to shake a hand, when to look at a customer, when not to, all these little nuances. And I'm excited to work with this kid because he's 14. This is our youth, man. If we could teach people while they're young how to have good verbal communication and then transition that into sales, like I expect this kid will do some amazing things when he grows up. But there's all these little nuances and pieces. Yes, there's a lot to it, but once you get them all gathered collectively together, man, things just become so much easier. So I just want to give you a little bit of flowers there, Virgil. Uh,
Thank you.
love what you're throwing down there. I'm picking up what you're throwing down. So
You,
thanks.
you
Are
actually
you?
gave me some goosebumps here. Not because of the flower that I love them, but even because of what you just put forward you're about to do and that you're doing, right? In so many ways, just by having the thought of doing that, you are blessed, right? Giving that knowledge to the next generation, recognizing what drives them and feeding the right way. It's you're so blessed for doing that. And it brought me back to wow, I think I still have them somewhere. I I think it's about 10 years ago. I was walking out of a superstore. It was mid-autumn, and there was this young kid that had these crayon drawings in hand. And when I came out, he came to me and said, "Sir, I draw and I'm selling. I'm trying to get some food, some uh, money for my stack that way." I said, "So you draw?" He goes, "Yeah, I draw and then I market my art." The kid was no longer than 10 or 11, super young. And I was like, "Kid, do you know that you're actually living the life that I want to live, living as an artist, drawing, going out there, pitching your work for what you need, you know, turning your passion into a transaction, right? And with full passion, with full love in our heart." And I looked at him and I was like, "Okay, how much are the drawings?" And he had about like 5 pages and they were 25 cents each. So I gave him double for each one for all the stock. And I said, "Go get your candy. I'm going to keep those." And I had them as a momentum because if he at this age can recognize what he needs to do to pursue his passion as an independent artist, as an independent entrepreneur, right? So even if it was just, you know what, I need a hustle. I'm gonna grab some. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna try to get some goodwill from anybody passerby, get my candies, and then go inside and buy it instead of try to shoplift it or any other thing that the other peers would do. Gotta love and recognize that, right? But it was the business insight. I was like, man,
Yeah, I
Yes.
love that. Keep them out of trouble, keep them off the
Yeah.
streets. Have them doing something productive. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Coming back to that thing that we also agreed upon, network marketers. This life is the greatest life. Where else do you go to learn to become better and help others become better on a regular basis to establish their dream and their goal in a fully altruistic way? It is because whatever reward you get through any brand affiliation deal, uh, honestly, I doesn't even equate to the weight and the value of the passion that you invest, right, in this endeavor. So yeah, um, love what you do. This is the greatest. And instead of being in the club and such, you would have people, well, you want to learn how to build yourself, come into this environment, learn to become a brand, learn to become an ambassador, learn to become somebody that can say, you know what, I give value to this product, and people will believe in that statement because of everything that you embodied and everything that you built through your track records. School of life, right? This is where I think I graduated the best because most of the diplomas I got from school, I don't necessarily use them every day. But everything in rules and behavioral traits that I picked up from the interaction with others, I use them constantly, right? And this is important. So this is, again, the ABCs of fundamentals. And today, and you're going to love this as well, Robert, because when we started, I was in a framework, and you constantly hear me say it lesser these days, interest, intention, call to action. And that was part of the framework that we needed for acquisition or conversion. But the framework starts to change drastically when we start getting into this space. And yesterday, again, through the conversation, you dropped a golden bar, Robert, that I picked up on. And I once again included in this framework because it is important getting into the retention aspect of this conversation that we change our mechanics or we add more to it. Just like the interest conversation was the intention conversation was made better with the emotional trigger stacking combo approach, giving more structure to that piece of information, how to apply, how to build clear intention, but also factoring the emotions that are needed to trigger that response, that engagement, and that action, that engagement, that call to action response that we're looking for, right? Interest, intention, call to action. And that was the framework then. But in the realm of retention, there's a different mentality that I think we need to start approaching, right? And I put this forward based on what I pulled from the conversation yesterday and what I've been applying here. So there should be an echo because it is based in these same principles, right? I call this a cycle of relationship momentum, right? And because everything must have a momentum. Relationship as friend, we meet, we separate, we meet, we separate, we meet, we separate. There's something keeping this relationship going, that momentum, right? And in the conversation, well, it came together in this simply because I was just looking at the core meaning of what each one of these terms mean when we are receiving them, right? Any relationship is based on the connection that you have, and that connection has to be strong. And what makes it strong is the interest and the value, right? You can know somebody, and well, you know what? We lost sight of each other because we're not no longer in the same space, right? We are no longer interested in the same thing. Our time is no longer valuable together. We still love each other. The relationship exists, but it has no momentum to it, right? Belief. What fuels belief? Trust, vision, and intentions, right? If I see if what your actions, the fruit of your actions reflects your intention and they align with your vision, trust, belief, because you trust in what you say, I trust in what you say because I see you do what you say. And when you do this, you apply all the principle that you have put forward as being part of your vision. And your intention towards me is clear, to bring me up to that level or to make me share in these benefits, right? This is what brings in the belief. Action, well, you have to have a clear process, clear direction, and a first step. We need to get them on this bike, right? And when I was receiving this from Robert and I was bringing it to my understanding, I figured that this should be the framework that we're always looking at approaching these specific conversation with, right? Just like yesterday, for example, when I said, well, the guy came with an objection and well, there was no need to say no because I wasn't selling anything. I wanted a connection, right? And the interests were the same. And I showed value in the time spent with me. That led to belief and that led to another call to action, right? And this is why I got so excited also because Robert fleshed out what I did instinctively. And even that magic sauce emotion at handling objections. I think those who have been with me often enough, long enough in this space have seen me overturn some objections, right? And I never say you're wrong or whatnot, right? And this is a very I call it the magic sauce because it calls upon everything that we just discussed. Understanding the body language, the timing, the objection, and all that, right? Because while you're complimenting, you are setting up your next part, or right, that critical approach, non-negative, because any and every good relationship, every good interaction has to end with a feeling of goodness, right? Even if you turned me down and I felt great about the conversation, I feel inclined to hit you up again sometime later on and see maybe, right? Things have changed, right? Very important. That is really a magic sauce. If you're looking at, it's like if there's no objection, if you're looking at the ultimate objection handling, just like Robert said, there is no no. I'm not selling anything. And just the fact that you stopped and started interacting with me is already a win with me. We made a connection, right? If we show enough interest and enough value, then I believe we can continue, and so will you. All right. So this is really a framework that you want to keep in mind because this will also dictate the rhythm of what you will be doing when we are looking at the sixth part, right? Because here, the touch points have to be weekly, right? And these are basic things that we are aware of, right? We have to review our hot list when we're actively prospecting for acquisition, right? And this will force us to look at, well, the rest of the list when we're done prospecting actively. There's that 70-30. We come in here, we want to do 30% of active and then 70% quality control and all that jazz with the people that are there. We can reverse the balance if we want, but there's always going to be that, right? You have to balance these two activities. That forces you to look at the high engagements. That forces you to update your tabs, right? And this part, whether you want it or not, is something that is very hard to optimize. It's the review cycles, at least at first. Once you've gone through these cycles enough time, then you can start getting a better picture of what other system you can bring in to automate certain things within that weekly process. But at the beginning, you want to be aware of that because this will drive your rhythm between when to engage, when not to, what are from the fact that we are getting a high response and engagement. This is an active member. This is somebody that I have to cherish, recognize, empower, elevate, because eventually I can delegate to them because this is what they came here to do. They're set on a course of growth and learning, which is also part of my conversation when I am onboarding them, right? Monthly, you want to take a look at your stats. What exactly is happening? Who is engaging? Who's not, right? You want to also look at the member's journey. And to do that, you have to have outlined that prospect journey. Right? How do we flesh all that out? We'll come to terms to it shortly. But if you go back to what I was showcasing last time, everything that I was putting on the board starts to make sense. From the newbie to the elite, there's a member's journey there. Milestone achievements, these require check-in and check-out. Being aware of all that helps me already visualize the strategy that I will need to conceive. That idea, that visualization, that conception, right? You need your key ingredients. This is what we are giving you here. All these points that were outlined in that CRM document from the one to the last points are ingredients for the process. And this process is the bare-born structure that you will come to apply until the world creates some things better, because this came out from the world of marketing, of administration, of social dynamics, everything that we and I share and don't know or know, all these are implied in those. Not because I know them, because they're balanced by the fact that they're all ABCs. I'm not complicated to understand when I'm explaining this. It's maybe applying it that becomes the issue. Because again, there's a lot of boxes that we're opening at the same time. As I said, as simple as we want to do this in the end, we're trying to condense a lot of information and feels like a lot of data being put forward, right? One of the things that I think is important is this. Here, you want to keep that in mind. We all want to scale our operation, right? And these 6 points are important and should guide your next steps. Just like when we were discussing with how to approach the system with Dr. Lisa, with their different persona, and I suggest pick one, the strongest one you have a relationship with, and build the whole process for them. So that at the basis and at the core, everybody in that persona archetype follows the same journey. And from the difference between the persona, the structure of the journey will naturally vary. Right? Once you have established that first leg, it's easy to scale into the next step of the process. Right? So whenever you're thinking about scaling multi-level products, multi-services, these are things that you're going to have in the foreground of your mind right away. Because as you open up different branches of service, you're creating different ramifications here, and they follow these 6 steps, right? Every member must follow the same journey map. Every action must trigger the next action, right? In this learning curve that we are following, if I have you do something specific, then there is something that must come out of that, leading us to the next point in the journey. connecting all these dots. Remember, I said we can align them. We have to be aware that these dots exist, visualization, imagination. Then we have to align them into a path to follow, right? And that's that visualization. And then we have to follow it. Connecting the dot actually means going through the pages of the process and understanding each outcome, each decision, and each next step that we are having the prospect follow in this story. It is much like telling a story as well. A lot of this conversation here actually can be made into an onboarding conversation. As you see, all the members in the community will follow the same journey. We have certain levels that trigger certain reaction, which will dictate when you will meet with your mentors or will you be prompted to seek help in the community, especially if you intend to rise to the different levels. Nobody's forgotten the system. We have a support section. We do recognize the people. You see, all these are part of the conversation. They're points of a process. That means there's a system behind that aligns with everything that are set forward. So far, so good. That document is available as well in the course. So how does this all manifest? I'll start today, but I do recommend that a little bit of action that you take on your side. So last time I dropped this link, I'll drop it again. It's going to be, actually, let me see if it's now official. Try, because I made it the official now support hub for our IMI core program. Let's see, perfect. So it's official. We're now .com on this one. I want you to take a look at the brand board community. To answer your concern, Rita, last time, the information that you submit here, since it's embedded in the now site infrastructure, it's encrypted and safe there. And what other tools that you'll get, because I offer some tools to download. These are just like programs that you're running on your computer. So they're as safe as the encryption that you have on your computer, right? And more so, none of the information that we're asking here, or I'm asking here, is personal information. The technical information that you would want to submit on a general, well, to the general public so that they can discover who you are, seek you out, take advantage of your brand, right? The whole conversation that came prior had you understanding that all the members will be evaluated and expected to grow their brand from admission to the end of the cycle. So a lot of the brand conversation is what we're trying to enact here. Last time I had showcased the members board, which is pretty cool, very simple. You come, you can add yourself here. And this is where transparency, there's no restriction. You rate yourself as you see fit, right? So that one, you are now officially part of the community. Everybody in the community know by what you brand yourself, what action you take, what level you have. But this is not something of a flex. It's you taking basically your space. I use that word, but accepting your space, your place in this space, right? If you rank yourself as an elite, then in the active implementation of this community, you might be solicited for some elite mentorship, right? Very important. But what I was pretty proud of, and this is something that I think everybody will end up having to implement in one way or another in a coaching environment, in line with what we discuss, making sure that everybody follows the same path, that action trigger action, and these actions have to be accounted so that they can be scaled, reviewed, and assessed during the follow-up meeting that are meant to be weekly or bi-weekly, depending on the need. So you see all the conversation that came before is applied here as well, right? So you can go to this tool here. It's actually a small app that I was able to create. Well, it's a tracker. And it operates as a standalone tracker. So technically, every member that joins the community would have their tracker, would download the tracker. It's a free tool so that monthly or regularly, I should say, as they go through the learning curve that they have chosen, they are now able to make themselves available to others or ask of help to others that have made themselves available in the community. And that helps everybody. Those who think they need help, those who think they're able to offer help, those who need that leadership experience so that they can rise to the next level, those who don't have an active community or are immersed in a community that want to start interacting with one that show proof in the doing, all this is manifested. That's the conversation, that's the story, that the whole hub is the narrative that is putting forward, right? And how do we honor this? Here, for example, you'll see very simply, I'm not even going to upload anything. As you can see, the only required field is the name. I'm going to do this here. And as I'm demonstrating this, I'm doing two things. Not only am I showing you that I went through the onboarding strategy and the conversation, but every one of these points are fleshed out in one way or another in this process, right? Want to keep that in mind. So just the name will do for now. Join date. That sets the timer for me and you, right? There's a curve there that we need to make sure, and there is a frequency of interaction that I need to abide by with anybody that joins. Hence, the meetings and the onboarding process that kicks off automatically. Now, technically, you would have done this on the members board, downloaded your tracker, and put the same information here. There has to be a continuation. If not, once we get to meet, the conversation will definitely start there. Okay, you registered there. Can you bring your tracker forward? Let's discuss basically what we will be doing going forward. All right. I'm going to start with the newbie here. Status 0xp and save my profile. And this is when we expand in everything else that we need, that we have discussed, all these metrics. And this is only possible because in the conversation that I had with the different AI to build this process, all these points, all these data, all these stats that we covered in what and the why we pick up on the CRM, why we are logging all this information come into play here. All this conversation around milestone, around everybody following the same prospect journey falls into place here, right? And you can see we have a process occurring tracker, milestones, we have growth chart activity, right? We have the metrics that makes the process easier for me when interacting with the client as they naturally progress to the learning curve, right? When is the automation being used? When it's not? When am I working with the automation to keep track of the progress? Simple form, right? And remember, these are a series of micro management steps that we're having you follow, right? If you decide to put yourself, to state your place, state your state in the community, you appear on the board. If you believe in the vision, in the aspiration, and the ecosystem, right, and you want to show to the rest of the community the example, then you get the tracker. If you want to get better at what you are doing, whatever is your status, you will look at your milestones, right? And if you adhere to the process, because you know that at the end of it, you will manifest what brought you in, then you will follow the learning path, right? And this is why, for example, last time I said when you're building these, you're building it for the ideal prospect first. The one that will raise the hand, raise the flag, do everything as it should. Why? Because that ideal prospect is you. You're the first one. You took all these steps. You built the process. You went through all these and back to now hand it over. You are the ideal prospect, right? So keep that in mind. That simplifies your approach. If everything happens the right way, then this is how it will roll out. But because we know that a man that is, or person that is best prepared also plans for the eventuality of, to be safe, the insurance package, right? Once we have laid down all the structure, this is when we're better positioned to assess the risk and take the other hard path. Clears your mind into the fog of how to implement this process. Right? This is how you flesh it out. Questions so far? And it also
Good stuff.
brings us back. Sorry?
I was saying good stuff, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're at
It's,
12:05.
yeah, it's what we're going to be, or what I'm going to be really embracing and representing in 2026. Last year, or at the beginning of the year when we started this, the promise was to make sure that we stay in this space, keep getting value, and hold the course. 2026, by the end of it, I want everybody in this space that has been with us, not even with me, all of us in this space that have been with us since 2000 in space, to shine as that leader class, or at least be in that comfort zone with everything that we are discussing, because that would be 2 years in a row. So that's my commitment, another year here. And most likely after that is going to be another year, because I offer a relationship and it only is possible as long as we maintain it. Right? So change that mind frame and you will see that you'll come into every discussion with a lot more ease. They can't tell you no if you're not selling anything. And if your goal is to make a connection, as soon as they stop and acknowledge you, you've made that connection.
You
Right?
know,
The only part is now just talking about the interest and seeing the value in that mutual exchange of time.
yeah, selling is not a bad thing. I like to quote from my buddy Marshall Silver here. He says,
Mhm.
"Yeah, if you think I'm going to sell you something, you're absolutely right. It's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for the economy."
Absolutely.
Have a
Selling,
fantastic day.
make no mistakes. Selling is actually, you know what selling is that for me it's that cherry on top of all this. It's that those sparks on that relationship, right? Oh, we're profiting from it. Oh, yes, we're going to profit from it as well, of all that goodness. That's lighting that candle on top of the cake moment for me. Go ahead, Dr. Lisa. Uh, you can go ahead, Dr. Lisa. Have your hand up, and then after that,
Yeah,
we'll wait for you to
I had
continue.
trouble unmuting
Okay.
my fingers. So I sent you two emails, two
Okay.
different emails. And so I'm just trying to find out the best email to, to send to you. Um,
Okay, let me type the one so there's no mistake there. And I'm gonna check. Maybe it went to my junk mail or make
I
sure.
got I got one from your YouTube channel,
Mhm.
which was IMI social media something, I think.
Oh yeah. Let
And
me
then
give
I
you.
got IMI creator something. Oh,
Yes.
see, that's
Yeah.
not on my list.
Take this one.
Thank you.
Yeah. That one's my direct one. The other ones, I use them for the automations and emails and such. I have to go there and fix the rules so that our response are redirected to uh, to me, to that one in the inbox. Okay, so that's the one to use. That's actually the one that you should check as well for the email booking that I sent you. Might have been to your spam if you don't have that one on your list.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I've been looking. I've had my eye out.
Okay, I'm
So
going to
thank you.
resend it again right away. And I'm looking forward to our session. We have much to discuss, much roads to
Oh, we
cover,
do.
you
So
and I.
listen, I
Mhm.
in those emails I have an invitation for you,
Oh, yeah,
a co-working session. So I'll email you right after this session right here at the
okay,
correct email.
perfect.
And
I'll take a look at it. It's been my pleasure
yeah,
to
cool.
join you.
Awesome.
Perfect. Okay, so take a look at the documents, build any questions, look at your overall strategy. Remember, your funnel system is not complete without the retention aspect, the retention leg of it. If it is already there, great. Look at the deeper ramification covering what we discuss. If it's not, definitely start putting it in place. You already have it since you are trying to acquire. There's something there already that serves as a foundation for customer relationship after the sale. That is where your retention strategy begins. Okay. See you tomorrow and have a great rest of the day.
You too, Virgil. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Always grateful.